So I'm here with Rachel.
Hi.
And this forest garden, when did this start?
We started planting in November 2004.
And how large an area is it?
It's about an acre.
So did you plant it all out at once?
No, an acre was just a bit too much to do all at once. So we've planted it in phases, and over about maybe 8 years or so, we decided that rather than spending all our time planting all at once, it would make more sense to do it and learn from it as we were doing it as well.
So what made you do something like this? I mean, it's quite unusual.
Yeah, it was something I read about, and I don't know exactly where it was, and it just struck a chord with me that it was a fantastic way of growing a lot of food, but without having too much input when it was established. Took a lot of work to start with, but now it's up and running. It's just looking after itself, and it's an amazingly productive space. I worked in the corporate sector and then the voluntary sector, but the more that you find out about how food is produced, the less I wanted to buy it from somewhere that I didn't know how it had been produced. So the only way to know that you're getting really good food is to grow it yourself.
So your life was quite different after you started this and now it's going?
Definitely, definitely, yes, yeah. I don't go out to work. I just come out into the field and pick some fruit for my breakfast.
And have you made an economy as well?
To a certain extent. As I say, it's a lifestyle, it's a hobby, so it hasn't been an intention that it is a business, but because the forest garden is so productive, and I really hate waste, I now make preserves, and I've got a little delivery round that every month I go and deliver to people, and I've got a little shop down at the farm where people can come and buy the preserves, and it's basically not to waste anything, but also my feeling is that so often people don't appreciate and realise where their food has come from.
So as you establish the system, because you tell me it's in stages, the more established end, can you see the maintenance going down? I mean, how many hours do you think you'll be doing in the end?
Yes, it certainly has changed over the years. To start with, the planting and the planning, that does take a long time. And getting things established, you've got to nurture them. But now, the bits that we planted 10, 12 years ago, I haven't been in there and done anything other than cut the paths for 2-3 years now. And harvest, of course. Obviously, there's the picking to do. But I do have an attitude that nature is in there as well. And the more you disturb the ecosystem within the forest garden, the more you are disturbing nature. And I'd rather let nature do a lot of the work for me. So going in and weeding, it's not a thing I do, but I do go and clear around all the plants that I want to harvest from. So that might be just once a year. So the maintenance now is minimal, I would say, from the established parts. But the majority of my time is spent harvesting, to be honest.
So you just clear through where you need to harvest, drop it where it is.
Yep, yep.
Harvest, don't go back until you've got to harvest again.
Exactly, exactly. Obviously, if there's a tree that a branch has fallen down, I'll need to do something with that. But that is nature doing something as well. So I've got to help nature sometimes. And there's a tree in the forest garden that I've noticed yesterday that's so heavy with apples that 2 branches have dropped off. So I'm going to have to do something there. But I wouldn't routinely go in and do anything.
So what's been your biggest challenge on this journey?
Biggest challenge. I think getting my head round it, to be honest, because you think that when you're gardening, you've got to go in there and weed. You know, if you've got a vegetable patch, you want to keep it free of weeds because you want your vegetables to grow. The forest garden is a different mindset. You want to plant it so that it will then look after itself. And relaxing about the fact there's nettles in there, there's thistles in there that are crowding out a space. But it's easy to go in and just chop the nettles down and leave them where they are, and the little bush or the tree that you're trying to get established has then got a mulch around it. And that mulch is then going to rot down and give the plant nutrients. So, yeah, my biggest challenge was to get my head around not being obsessive about going in and clearing everything and weeding and spending all my time in there. I probably spend a day a week in there, I would say, doing something, and that could be harvesting. My biggest job is keeping the paths clear so that you can actually walk around it. And that I've got a little scythe which I just go around, cut the paths. It takes me about an hour to do it, and I'll do that every couple of weeks when the grass is growing. So
you're in a pretty cold climate, so in winter it gets a bit snowy.
Can do, yes, yeah, it can do.
So all the leaves go down more or less.
Yeah.
But it looks like a pretty wild space at this time of year in midsummer. Do a lot of people come with an opinion that you should clean it up a bit?
It's very mixed reactions, definitely. There's some people that could walk in and go, oh, don't like it, I need to get out because it's too messy. But then there's other people that walk in and say, oh, it's such a relaxing space, you know, it's so natural. So I think it depends what sort of gardener you are and what you expect of a garden. But I try and tell people that it is a natural woodland. If you walked into a wood, it would be messy and everything intermingled. And that's what we're trying to create here, a natural woodland. So.
Tell me, along the way, what was the point when you felt, I'm getting somewhere, this is a benchmark, I know I'm going to make it, it's all going to work?
Ah, yes, probably only in the last 2 or 3 years when it has become how I envisaged it when I was first planting. And that vision was that it was going to be a woodland, this place where you can walk through and harvest, forage, and there's still bits which we've planted recently that I now know are going to become like the bits that are planted first.
If someone came to you and said, I'm gonna do this, what would be your advice about their first steps? They said, Rachel, what should I do first? How should I go about this?
Yeah, it's quite a difficult question to answer that because I've found that everybody's circumstances are different. They might have a small area, they might have a large area, they might have a woodland already, they might have family. So it really does depend on what their circumstances are as to how they would go about it. But I would always encourage people to think about planting in a way that creates a forest garden that fits their circumstances. If they had a space like ours, which was literally just a grass field to start with, you've got blank canvas. So it's a case of thinking about how do you want it to look in 10 years' time and then plan for that. What trees do you want? What food do you like to eat? But definitely do it because it is such a wonderful space to be and a productive space. Productive from a food point of view, but also from a social point of view. Yeah, it's just a relaxing place to be.
How long do you think it will last?
My lifetime, definitely, and hopefully longer. Yes, it's a woodland. you know, it's here forever.
Could be here forever.
Yeah. Well, that's my hope. That's my dream.
How many species do you think you've got in there that are edible?
That are edible? I will probably over 400, I would say. Yeah. There's everything from salad crops to the fruit bushes to the fruit trees. You can just intermingle so many things, and it might just be one plant of one thing, or 10 plants of something else, and they just all get on happily. And there's lots of wild things as well that have come in. It's not all that we've planted.
So did you set out to do an acre? Because I noticed some of it you put into a wildflower meadow and a willow bog and a willow pleached chair, and you've been playing around in there as well, not just this. So you fenced off a larger area. What happened?
Yeah, the original plan was to do the full area, which would have been about 2 acres. Once we'd got halfway through what we've planted, we had 1/4 of a ton of strawberries came out of the forest garden, because that was our ground cover. And it made you stand back and think, actually, do we need 2 acres of food growing if we're going to get this much out of it? So actually, no, we don't. So let's just rein ourselves in and have a rethink. And yeah, we did. We decided that we didn't need the whole area as forest garden, but we had the space that we'd already fenced round. And we realised that we didn't actually have anything that really attracted wildlife. We wanted a pond, we wanted flowers, and so it seemed a sensible idea to put a specific area down to wildlife.
So there you go, from old Slanningford Farm, forest garden, to old Slanningford Farm, preserves. Now we have a cottage industry. This really proves that this can be done. So make sure that you realise that, and you too can enjoy the journey.